Now, the All Progressives Congress Party, which commands the majority in both chambers of the National Assembly, seems to be caught between a rock and a hard place regarding the distribution of principal offices in order to reflect equitable representation of the 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria. Arise News analyst Dayo Sobowale joins us now to discuss how the APC can manage the distribution of these key positions to avoid lopsidedness based on religious considerations. Good afternoon. Very warm welcome to the program. Great. Now, of course, this is coming off of the back of the statement that was made that the APC managed to escape crisis with the same faith ticket at the presidential level. What's your take on this?
All right. Remember yesterday when we were discussing Tinubu's appointment for being his team, I was dilating on the need to appease Christians. Get me? Because of what happened in the last election. This is precisely what this stalwart of the APC is trying to say. That they were lucky and had a hard time surviving the consequences of the same faith ticket. And that with regard to picking the leadership of the National Assembly, they should not repeat the same mistake. So he called on his fellow compatriots in the party, especially those from the northwest, to step aside so that they can balance the ticket, which is a very strategic, very, very important call. See, normally they would have gone the zoning way, looking at the 6 geopolitical zones. If you look at the 6 zones, the president is a Muslim from the southwest. The vice president is a Muslim, is from the northeast. So that leaves the coast for 4 other geopolitical localities. But you see, the northwest is out of the presidency, where another now is president, almost for the first time. Because the northwest is a vote-catching, powerful electoral powerhouse for any winning party. So I'm going to wonder how they are going to make the northwest people to sidestep. Normally, if you want leaders for the legislature, you look at their experience, the number of terms, maybe 2-term legislator in either upper house or lower house. They must know the rules of the house. They must have experience. They must have been the chairman of important committees in both the lower and upper house. And they must know how to lead people. Those are normal conditions based on legislative functions. But now, there's a need to look at other situations. I recall a situation in maybe 2015, when Buhari was president. The Northwest raised the point that because Buhari was president does not mean that they cannot be part of consideration for other geopolitical posts. That the president is for Nigeria, so it should not. The argument was that they brought the largest number of state legislators to power, the largest number of senators in the Senate, the largest number of members of House of Representatives. So they must have a stake. I'm sure they will still make the same claim. Although, if people want to counter that now, they will say, because the presidency is a Muslim ticket, there must be a situation whereby there must be more Christians in the leadership of, and not only in the appointments, but that is theorizing. That is living in the air. Pragmatically, I do not see a situation whereby the Northwest will concede not to contest for the Senate presidency and any other. So it is up to the party to make sure that they give consideration to Christians, to give consideration to youthful legislators, wherever they may be. Because they have to look at and learn a lesson from the emergence and of the LP as a powerhouse in our own political equation based on the last election.
Thank you, Mr. Sobowale. You know, I was actually wondering the same thing, if they would actually heed to that appeal, putting national interest ahead of their own, but we'll just have to see how that plays out. Now, one of those guest speakers who was there was, it's a bit of a, side topic, was Emeka Wogu, and he mentioned that he's of the opinion that the National Assembly should be saddled with the responsibility of appointing the chairman and members of INEC, as this would make the umpire truly independent and eliminate electoral malpractices. Do you think that is...
You didn't complete that, because he said, as they are now, they are subject to executive infiltration or control.
Thank you for completing.
If they are subject to that now, what do they be subject to when they are from the National Assembly?
So,
two wrongs do not make a right. What he's trying to advocate is neutrality, objectivity in the selection of INEC people. But then, until you have an election, you do not know the true nature of those you put in such offices. Until you have an election. Up until then, there is no basis for them not to show neutrality. But as you have seen in this last election, human factor comes in, integrity, probity, background, and Australia. And then the consequences are there to see. So I think we will still go on striving, inquiring on how to get, okay, look at INEC. INEC, now you have more professors in INEC than in any other institutions in the political system. See, physics, mathematics, space technology, they are not the same thing as conducting elections on the ground. That's practical experience. And again, pragmatism. And then the human factor comes in. So we keep on looking for the best.
Now, just to go back to the conversation about balance, when as we pursue, or rather in the run-up to the selection of the next Senate president, excuse me. So the issues at hand are, of course, geopolitical zoning, faith, and competence, of course, is one of the major qualities. Yes. Now, this is me playing games with you, as I like to do. Okay. Now, so many names have been thrown into the ring.
Yes.
Based on this criteria, who do you foresee being the front runners in this race in the event that the Northwest do agree, the Muslim senators also agree to step out of this one?
I will not hazard a name or hazard a guess. But what I can say is this. Even in the North, there are Northern Christians. There are Northern Christians even in the Northwest. The Northeast, just that as there are Christians and Muslims in the Southwest. In the Southwest, you see, people don't discriminate on the basis of religion. Because there's hardly a family that you will not have both Muslims and Christians as cousins, husband and wife, and so on. But in the North, there are not people in Kaduna, in Kano, in Plateau, who are Northern Christians. You see, those were the people who felt aggrieved when the Muslim ticket was floated. That was why the president-elect had to go out of his way with his running mate to convince them, just like they almost prostrated for them, that please give us a chance. So those people should be propitiated now, should be brought into the fold. So it is practicable. You see, you should not be deterred by the fact that most people think the North is essentially Muslim. Even if the North is essentially Muslim, it has had its fair share in the presidency. It should lead back and respect the rest of the country to go along with that presidency. That's my take.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sobowale. Now, if these Muslim senators do not step aside, and they,
I doubt if they will.
if your doubt comes to pass and they don't, and for some reason under heaven we have a Senate president that emerges as also Muslim, can you tell us what you think the implications might be?
Well, the implication will be that it will be business as usual, but then the message has been floated. You get me? That will reverberate into the next election. And it will affect a lot of the functions of the House. You get me? One thing that is particularly important in this sort of position is that the person must be somebody who's loyal to the party, regardless of the religion. Like the Saraki factor showed, look, they must put in place somebody who will be loyal to the party at all times. Remember what happened in the US with the president speaker, McCarthy also? It took about 8 times for them to vote before he was elected. Because people were doubting his loyalty because they had criticized Trump before. And they said if a crisis comes up, like the one that is unfolding against the man now, that he will not stand by them. They taught him a lesson. And I think he would rather die with Trump than betray him now. So they need somebody who is loyal to the party, either Christian or Muslim, especially if they end up having a Muslim as Senate president. There will be grievances in the House. There will be mistrust. There will be suspicion. And it will work out in the legislative process, even up to the executive level.
All right, it is a very delicate balancing act, but let's see how it all unfolds. It's just a matter of time until those details are out. Mr. Dayo Sobowale, thank you so much for your take on this.